But what a lot of people don't understand is that there's language in your warranty, either from the manufacturer or from the contractor, the workmanship, that you need to inspect your roof every either 6 or 12 months and take photos of this. Otherwise, your warranty is voided.
Ooh.
With roofing, commercial roofing, or sales, you've got to go all in from the very beginning.
Wow.
And it's sink or swim. Why should a tenant look out for a bad roof? Well, if a bad roof is probably going to cause problems. It's similar to a car, right? A car needs maintenance. And if you ignore maintenance for long enough, it gets more and more expensive. So from the tenant side of view, they want stability. They don't even want to have to think about the roof, right?
Right.
And they don't want leaks coming in. You know, if you have a leak coming in from the roof, next thing you know, you've got a drywall problem and a paint problem and a ceiling problem and probably a mold problem too. My name is Brandon Burlingame. I'm from Kingfisher Roofing, and this is the Working Class Roundup.
Saddle up. Punch that clock. Let's ride.
This is the Working Class Roundup. Spurs, truck, boots up, let's run. Clock in, hold on, don't fold up. We get paid, get drained, still show up. From the plant yard dust to the highway rust, raise that cup, let's sound off. This is the Working Class Roundup.
Welcome to the Working Class Roundup. I'm your host, Cowboy Jody Collins, and with me is Brandon, my commercial roofer. How you doing, Brandon?
Great. It's good to be here.
Awesome. All right, thanks again for being my guest today. And the Working Class Nation wants to know, what got you into roofing?
Yeah.
Because I know it's kind of a journey
it's
for
unusual. I get a lot of looks. And so I actually have an architectural background. And so I did that for many years, working, in an office, and kind of decided that I wanted something a little bit different. I wanted to be working with people. I wanted to be building stuff, but also able to make more money. And so I made the switch. Over time, I was talking to people about what I could do especially with my degree, and everyone recommended going in the commercial side of roofing. It's a little more B2B, it's a little more technical. I can speak the architecture language. And so I just went in, with roofing, commercial roofing, or sales, you've got to go all in from the very beginning. And so I was working 100% commission for a year.
Wow.
And it's sink or swim. Yeah.
Yeah, that's that. But you are in the perfect market for a roofer, right?
Yeah. Well, this is the hail capital of the world, really, of the U.S. And so there was a lot of opportunity early on to get on roofs and do inspections and try to help people.
Yeah, and that's really fascinating that you went from architecture into roofing, because that's a lot of school for architect, right?
Right.
Engineering, a little bit of science and innovation and.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's a lot of unpaid overtime. It's a lot of asking, you get 4 weeks off, and kind of fighting for a little 20% raise. And with sales and with roofing, you have a lot more time freedom. I make more money. I've already started making more money.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, one of the things we do here at the Working Class Roundup is we feature small and mid-sized businesses in the great state of Texas. And then we have them share with us their dreams, their inspirations, the things that make them tick. And then on the flip side, we talk about the nightmares and the things that can happen from an insurance world and how we protect and shield them. So, Brandon, one of the things I also do is I go to Google and I look up the top questions that are asked on that. And one that actually came up, and you helped me rephrase it a little bit, was why should, now a tenant on the commercial side, so we're talking commercial, not, we'll have a different cast on the personal side, but on the commercial side, why should a tenant of a building watch out for a bad roof?
Why should a tenant look out for a bad roof? Well, a bad roof is probably going to cause problems. It's similar to a car, right? A car needs maintenance. And if you ignore maintenance for long enough, it gets more and more expensive. So from the tenant side of view, they want stability. They don't even want to have to think about the roof, right?
Right.
And they don't want leaks coming in. If you have a leak coming in from the roof, next thing you know, you've got a drywall problem and a paint problem and a ceiling problem and probably a mold problem too. And so it's advantageous to slow down and have someone look at the roof every 6 to 12 months. I always recommend. I would not recommend going with anyone that's calling you. Tenants probably get 10 to 12 plus calls a week, especially as we come up on storm season.
Right.
I would not recommend working with cold callers or door knockers. right off the bat. I would recommend finding someone that,
Why is that? Why is that?
because your door knockers are people that have been there for probably less than 3 months. They are trained to talk to you into filing an insurance claim. That's all they do. And it's actually kind of vicious and sad. They'll just turn through these people viciously. 3-month turnover. 100 people come in and out the door a year. And it's nothing against those guys. They're trying to get started. Right. But I would not recommend someone that is, calling you, especially 2 or 3 times a week, trying to talk to you.
So talk to me, and again, this is important again for the working class nation, because again, a lot of people that start a business don't buy the building from the get-go. They don't have the capital for it, right? So they rent. They rent or lease a strip mall or something like that. Talk about the different types of commercial roofs. Like, what's the most traditional type of roof here that you see in Texas?
Sure. So typically you're going to have some kind of flat roof. So that's going to have like a white color to it. That could be a TPO roof. You'll have a PVC roof.
Okay.
Which
is a plastic.
Yeah. And you'll have an EPDM roof, which looks like a black top.
Okay.
It's the same thing. It's also a membrane roof. Or you'll have a modified bitumen roof, which is basically asphalt and multiple layers of like plies, we call them.
Okay.
Membranes. Those are the most typical. We're seeing a lot of old PVC roofs that are aging out. So they're 15 or 20 years old. The industry moved away from PVC, especially in Texas, a while ago.
Right, and that was because of the sun bleaching, right? And
Sun bleaching, and they get brittle over time.
Right.
And they're easy to get cracked by all the hail that we have here.
Okay.
Right.
Makes sense.
And so if a tenant's someone's going to put some money together to buy a building, I would absolutely have someone come out and look at it. And, I've seen CBRE, the big companies do it, and they'll typically send a generalist,
Okay.
which is fine. But I would recommend someone that actually has specialized or has experience specifically in commercial roofing for 5, 10 plus years. And to make the distinction there, and this is no disrespect to my residential roofers. I know guys that are really great. 90% of roofers are residential roofers. And if they get lucky, they'll do 1 or 2 commercial a year. And they're, trying to learn and get started, which is fine. But a lot of people would rather go someone that has the experience and has already done it. And so that's what I would look for, is someone with a track record of not 1 or 2 a year, but they have a commercial department, and they're doing projects actively.
Yeah, no, that's huge, and I'm glad you bring that up, because again, the style of roof from a residential to a commercial is very, very different. Residential roofs are pitch. They're usually asphalt shingle. In the West Texas market, they might be the Mexican tiles, right?
Right.
In Houston, they might be the hail resistant or the wind resistant porcelain tiles or porcelain looking shingles. And that's a different skill set than a commercial, where it's a lot of flat roofs. There's a lot of layers. There's different composites, right? And I always like to say, it's true for any industry, you wouldn't go to a foot doctor for brain surgery, right?
That's exactly it.
And that's super important. Everybody knows that, right? Again, you could end up for a toe for your brain. So it's not something you want to do. Now, when you go out on a job site, do you have a crew that runs the replacement of the roofs, or do you bring in subcontractors? How do you perform your work?
It's a great question. So all of our quality control is in-house W-9. So our site supervisors, our project managers, our estimators, they are all in-house, and that's so the accountability's there, and they're stable, and they can perform and do their job. The build is done by subcontractors.
Okay.
Now, we've worked with them for 5 years minimum, and we keep them busy. So we have our crews, we have our metal crew, we have our flat roof crew, we have different types of roofs, our different crews. But they've been with us for at least 5+ years. Our commercial crew is Duralast and Carlisle certified. And so they've been through either them or the site supervisor has been trained by Duralast to know exactly what we need to do.
Awesome. No, that's important too, right? Because I can't tell you how many times I've seen, because again, I write commercial policies, right? I can't tell you how many times I've seen a contractor, a roofing contractor, commercial, and then they employ subcontractors that are not insured. And that's never a good mix. So having that under your belt is really cool. One other question before we take a break. You had told me a story once about a particular type of roof. Now, again, you always make me squeal when you do these things, because it's like, oh, the claim's going up. But the service that you bring to your clients because of your background is something that I've not seen in another roofer. And I want to make sure we share that with the working class nation. So
Great.
go ahead, please.
Yeah, we could talk about a claim last year that we worked out in Nacogdoches.
Save the names to protect the innocent.
Right, of course. So it was somewhere in East Texas. We had a claim, and this was an inbound call, so this was a repeat customer. They had acquired a new commercial building. And they said, hey, we think it's leaking. You know, we received a complaint from the tenant that there's leaking. So I said, okay, let me go look. So I went out there and I saw, yeah, there's definitely moisture in the roof. It's definitely leaking. And so you start doing your due diligence. And this is where the difference is. The guys that are starting out that have been there for 3 months would have said, let's just file a claim right away. And you can tell when they're being very aggressive about, you know, sign here, I'll take care of it.
Right.
Stay away from that. And so what I did is I started investigating. And what I discovered was that this property had been acquired. They had closed on the property, I don't know, a month or two ago,
Okay.
very recently. And when you buy a commercial property, you go through the due diligence phase. So during due diligence, they had hired I won't trash another company, but they'd hired a company that had done a report on the roof, and they had said it's in good condition. And so I requested a copy of that report. I did my own inspection, and what I discovered is that there was wind damage. This is a flat roof, and it looks like there might be wind damage. So when you're looking at damage, you're also looking at the weather report, right? So you have to put all the data points together. You can't just say this is wind damage if there's no, 80 plus, 60, 80 plus mile an hour winds in the area.
Okay.
So I looked at the weather data and there was a wind event. Then you go to news sources and you find, there was a down power pole. A tree fell over on that same day and knocked over a power pole. Okay. It was pretty nearby. So now it looks like something might have happened.
Makes
Then
sense.
I see on the roof evidence of it's bubbling, right? So the membrane's coming up in multiple places in long stretches of bubbling. And so I'm looking at that and I'm going, yeah, that looks like that could be wind damage. And so again, but I haven't said let's file a claim yet. I'm still doing my investigation.
Right.
So then you need to look at what's under the membrane. This is another thing. People don't look, they walk it and they say, it's good, let's file a claim. Don't do that. So I cut into the roof and got a moisture meter in there. And sure enough, there was plenty of water in the roof. So it is leaking. So we were able to file a claim. The claim was approved and by the way, when I file a claim, we go over the whole process because there's a deductible, right?
Right. And there's
And
an
so-
adjuster that you
So what I do
negotiate.
is I prep them that, the deductible is a contractual agreement between you and your insurance carrier. It has nothing to do with me. Period.
very
And so
well said,
I
yeah.
prep them in the head. I say, hey, be prepared to play your full deductible. Multiple times just to make sure. So we filed the claim and that roof was approved for a full replacement in 45 minutes. So, yeah. So then we went through the claims process. And again, we're willing to work with the customer. I say you're going to pay your deductible, which is true. However, we can work on getting the price down in a, ethical way. And so that's part of my job is to create a predictable price and try to save the customer.
Yeah,
money.
and that's super important, Brandon,
Right.
because I know there's a lot of rules now with regards to that. You can't make deals about absorbing their deductible and things
Right.
like that. So
No, I want them to write a check and I want it to say deductible on it.
yeah,
You
that's
know what I
good.
mean?
That,
And
no,
have
that's
that into your accounting and everything's clear. Especially when you're in the commercial side because you have people that have assets, they have underwritings coming up, they have future renewals coming up. And so people that understand that, I tend to work best with.
Yeah, and that's super important, and we'll talk more of that on the
Right.
flip side. But right now, we're going to go ahead and take a break from the Working Class Roundup to say thank you to some of our partners that helped put this show on. We'll be right back.
Hey there, Working Class Nation. Jonathan with Leafy Link, your marketing geek in green. Hey, are you one of those business owners that have tried social media but haven't gotten the results? I know that social media is a daunting task, but offload it to me and my expert team. We will help you every step of the way and make sure that you are visible by those that actually want your service. So if you're interested in learning more, please click on the link in the description below, and we'll see you on a Zoom call.
Hey, Working Class Nation, Cowboy Jody Collins here. Do you drive a vehicle that has a logo on it? Do you use a trailer for your day-to-day work? Do you travel more than 25 miles away to different job sites? Do you have tools hanging off of your vehicle or inside your vehicle mounted? If you do, you need to have a commercial auto policy. It's just that simple, because if you don't have coverage. So we want to make sure we take care of that. So click on the link below, give us a call today. We can help you out with that journey. Happy sales and happy trails.
Welcome back to the Working Class Roundup. I'm here with Brandon, Kingfisher Roofing. So Brandon, now we're going to switch gears and we're going to talk more about the claim stuff. And in the first half of the show, you talked about, the big question I asked was, why wouldn't a tenant Why would a tenant want to inspect their roof? And in my mind, immediately, when I asked you that question, popped into my mind one of our friends who is a printer, right? And if he just rented a space where he didn't get his due diligence done and check that roof and it leaked, okay, he's got a piece of equipment in the center of his operation that has to be environmentally sound. It can't have moisture. It will break the machine. It's a $35,000 printer.
Right.
And that's not something, if you're starting up a business and you just took out a business loan to get that printer, and then 2 months after you move into your store front, and now there's a leak and it destroys that equipment, that's not the kind of luck or scenario that you want to be into. So talk to me a little bit more about, because you'd mentioned that you offered it to my customers, a thermal imaging
Right.
for roofs.
Right.
What does that entail? What does that do for you as a roofer? What does that reveal for you?
So to get back to the previous statement that I made about understanding what's going on underneath. So walking the roof is not really sufficient to know what's going on. What we use a lot of times is what's called a thermal camera or thermal imaging. The principle behind that being that water retains heat. And so if there's water underneath the membrane, we can look at a camera and we can see, okay, this is cold and this is warm. This is cold. There's a patch here of moisture. And typically it's where you would suspect it's going to be. It's along the edges, any penetrations to the roof. But this is vital, one, to know what's going on with your roof, and then two, what the appropriate repair is going to be. A lot of people will come to me and they'll say, well, why don't we just, patch it or go over the top? We'll just put a new roof over the top. Well, nobody's going to warranty patching a wet roof. And so we need to know where the moisture is, and we need to be able to cut into it, dry it out properly, and repair or remediate the roof.
That segues to a great question, because here in North Texas, right, we get really cold weather. Recently, we've gotten some really cold weather, right? Like 4 or 5 years ago, we got below zero. And we recently just had a big weather event where we were down in the single digits. When there's water in those layers on a commercial roof, what does that freezing do to that?
So on a commercial roof, drainage is a big part of the factor, right? So we're on top of a building. When we're designing the roof or building it, we're trying to drain it either to a gutter system or into scuppers. And that whole drainage system is designed for liquid water that flows. So when water becomes solid and ice, no roof system is designed for that. And so obviously you can get expansion, you can get contraction in certain areas, and so it needs to be looked at pretty typically. If there's a problem, we'll look at it.
Right, but if it expands, what kind of damage does that do to the integrity of the roof? Does it make it weaker? If somebody's walking around up there, can somebody fall through now because it expanded and created a pocket in, or?
No, it really has to do if you get like if there's ice blocking the flow of water,
Okay.
it'll do different things. If there's, ice is, for example, if a scupper is 2 inches above the membrane, this is your overflow, and now you have, an ice that's blocking the scupper. You might have a dam situation or something like that.
Okay, that makes sense. Right. So now you have a bunch of stagnant water up on top of a roof, and water is water. It's going to find a way to make its way down, right?
Right.
Okay. No, that's a great point. When you're talking to a customer, and again, it has to do with claims. When you're counseling them, do you ever ask them what's their deductible, or do you actually take time to look in their policy to understand what they have covered and what they have?
Sure. So I don't like working for free, right? And so at the same time, I don't communicate about the policy with the customer. I'm a contractor.
Okay.
Right? So I don't discuss coverage with them. What I do is we do an internal review in our office, and we are looking at what the coverage is, what the deductible is there even coverage? A lot of people think they have insurance, and effectively there's almost none. We're looking for certain key terms, and we'll do an internal review and we'll do a go, no go. And if we decide that it's not worth it to file a claim, I'll let them know that, based on this and that, we don't think it's a good idea to file a claim. I am asking them what the deductible is. I want them to know what it is. I know what it is, but I want them to know what it is.
Right, because it can be pretty pricey, right?
Yeah. And so what we're trying to do is, if we're going to file a claim, we want to sit down and look at everything. We want to look at claim history, right?
I'm glad you brought it up.
We want to look at claim history. We want, because sometimes someone will want me to file a claim, but they filed like 3 claims in the last 2 years. And so I'm just not sure that that's a good use of my time.
I will tell you that's not a real good use of your time at all. In fact, I'm going to enlighten on that because in the insurance world, right, it's there for catastrophes, not for warranties, and that I have to hit that message home that if you make 3 or 4 claims, you are almost, in most cases, making yourself uninsurable in the standard market.
Right.
It means you have to go out to a brokerage or you have to go out to specialized insurance, which always costs more. You're not going to save money going there. And there could be a point that they're just going to say, no, you just have to self-insure yourself,
Right.
which is never something you want to do. Now, how often, and I'm just curious, this is my own curiosity from the Cowboy, right, is how often do you run into ACV when you're having the discussions with clients?
I mean, ACV only policy?
Uh-huh.
That depends. They don't really know what that is typically.
No, they don't.
There's maybe some frustration, when the number's lower.
Well,
than they thought it would be,
let's
or-
explain it to the
Yeah.
working class nation. What
Sure.
does that mean? Because
Sure.
again, that's a technical term,
Sure, right. So when you go to file a claim, let's just say that you get a roof that's approved and it's going to be a full replacement. There's 2 different numbers that you're looking at. One is what's called the actual cost value, ACV, and then one is called the replacement cost value, the RCV.
right?
And what is happening is that the insurance carriers know that some people are just going to try to keep the money and not do anything. And so they broke it up into 2 buckets. And so that ACV is the first portion of money. It could be, a small amount. It could be 70%, 50%, whatever's needed for the approved amount to replace the roof.
Right.
That comes in a check in the mail. That check is for replacement and repair of the roof. Explicitly, right? And so, but unfortunately, there's some people that will try to run away with the check and buy a new boat or whatever. And I'm not going to facilitate that. I'm not a part of that. But
Right.
and that's most of the time that's not what happens. So then, with that check, they will make a down payment to the contractor, who will then order materials and start the build. They'll build it. So say the roof is done. Once the roof is done, then we'll take the invoice and the final scope from the roof, and we're going to submit that to the insurance along with proof of the deductible being paid and photos, and then they will release the final check, which is called the
Right.
RCV.
Right.
Oh, and that's the replacement cost value. And they do that so that you actually build the roof.
Correct. That was a stopgap put in a few years ago because we saw what you were saying in the insurance industry. We saw people getting 3 bids, taking the high bid, pocketing cash and stuff. So what we did to combat that is that most carriers, I must quantify that, most carriers have what's called ACV, actual cash value. And what that means is that your roof, for every year that your roof is up in the air and exposed, they depreciate the value of it. So if you have a 5-year-old roof, they're going to depreciate the value of that roof by 25%. So if you make a claim on it, they're only going to give you 75% of the value of the roof. And then when you take that money and you give it to a qualified contractor like yourself, and then you order the materials and you complete the job, they'll cut the check for the remaining 25% of the full replacement. And that's kind of how the insurance works. And again, we're doing that in the industry to safeguard against people just pocketing cash, is that they're actually replacing the roof or making it whole again. Because there's discounts and other things that can be associated with it. So thank you for clarifying that with me. That's a super important. One last thing, it's one of those really, and I asked a little bit about it, but how often on commercial property now should a owner of a property or a tenant inspect their roof?
That's a great question. And it's commonly overlooked. People think if it's not making, if it's not leaking, I don't need to look at it. The answer is going to be based on your warranty. And so what a lot of people don't understand is that there's language in your warranty, either from the manufacturer or from the contractor, the workmanship, that you need to inspect your roof every either 6 or 12 months and take photos of this. Otherwise, your warranty is voided.
Oh,
Yeah, so when you go to make a warranty claim that is in your right to do, and there was a material defect from the factory, didn't last as long as it was supposed to, it's happened more than once where they'll say, okay, send us your latest inspection. And if you don't have it there, they have grounds to disqualify you from your warranty.
and see that was my loaded shotgun question for you this time, because I want to again relate to the working class nation that inspecting your roof is super. Even if there's no storm, every year, every 6 months, even depending upon the policy you have,
the warranty you have, you should inspect your roof. Make sure to take pictures, have that on a file, put it on a disk drive, have it available. That way, if anything comes up. Brandon, thank you today for this interview. It was really great. The Working Class Nation has any questions for Brandon, there's going to be a link down below that you can click on and contact him. If you need help with the insurance to protect said roof, you can contact me and my posse, my team. We'll be glad to help you out with that. Thank you for joining the Working Class Nation. I'm Cowboy Jody Collins. Happy sales, happy trails.